Join me as I dive deep into the mystery of memory and take on the challenge of trying to remember everything I learn in a day. Memory is a fascinating topic that affects us all. We use it every day to learn, grow, and improve. But have you ever stopped to think about just how important memory is in our daily lives? Without it, we wouldn't be able to recall our passwords, remember our loved ones' birthdays, or even drive to work. It's a fundamental part of being human, and yet, it's something that we often take for granted. But what happens when our memories start to slip away? When we can't remember where we put our keys or what we had for breakfast. It's a frustrating experience that can leave us feeling helpless and confused. And it's not just minor things that we forget. Sometimes, we forget important events, conversations, or even entire chunks of our lives. As we go about our daily lives, it's easy to assume that our memories are concrete and unchanging. But the truth is, our brains are constantly processing, storing, and retrieving information, and that process is far from perfect. So, what's going on in our brains when we forget things? Is it just a natural part of aging, or is there something more to it? Memory loss and forgetting are a part of life, and it's something that we've all experienced at some point or another. We've all had those moments where we walk into a room and can't remember why we went there in the first place. Or we've forgotten someone's name just seconds after being introduced to them. It's a universal experience that can be both embarrassing and frustrating. But have you ever stopped to think about why we forget things in the first place? Is it because we're just not paying attention, or is there something deeper going on? Do we simply have too much information to process, or is our brain trying to tell us something? Forgetting is such a common experience that it's easy to brush it off as a minor annoyance. But the truth is, it's a complex process that involves multiple factors, from our attention span to our emotional state. And yet, despite how common it is, we still don't fully understand why we forget things. From misplacing our phones to forgetting important dates, memory loss is a part of life. And it's not just limited to small things. Sometimes, we forget entire conversations or events. It's a strange phenomenon that can leave us feeling confused and helpless. So, what's going on in our brains when we forget things? Is it just a natural part of aging, or is there something more to it? Are we simply not paying attention, or is our brain trying to tell us something? These are the questions that we'll be exploring today as we dive deeper into the mystery of memory and forgetting. We've all had those moments where we can't remember what we had for breakfast, or what we did last weekend. It's a frustrating experience that can leave us feeling like we're losing our grip on reality. But the truth is, forgetting is a natural part of the memory process, and it's not just limited to small things. As we navigate our daily lives, we're constantly taking in new information, processing it, and storing it away in our brains. And yet, despite how efficient our brains are, we still forget things. It's a strange paradox that has puzzled scientists and philosophers for centuries. So, why do we forget things so easily? Is it because we're just not paying attention, or is there something deeper going on? Do we simply have too much information to process, or is our brain trying to tell us something? As we explore the science behind memory and forgetting, we'll be looking at the different types of memory, from short-term to long-term. We'll be discussing the reasons why we forget things, from decay to interference. And we'll be examining the factors that affect memory retention, from our emotional state to our sleep patterns. One of the most surprising things about memory is just how fragile it is. A single event, a single conversation, or even a single thought can be lost forever, never to be recovered. It's a humbling reminder of just how limited our brains are when it comes to storing and retrieving information. But what if I told you that forgetting isn't always a bad thing? What if I told you that it's actually a natural and necessary part of the memory process? It sounds counterintuitive, but the truth is, forgetting can actually be beneficial. As we learn and grow, our brains are constantly consolidating information, filing away what's important and discarding what's not. It's a process that's both necessary and beautiful, and it's something that we'll be exploring in more depth today. So, how do we reconcile the fact that we forget things with the idea that forgetting is actually beneficial? It's a paradox that requires us to rethink our entire approach to memory and learning. And it's a topic that we'll be exploring in more depth today. As we navigate the complex world of memory and forgetting, we'll be looking at the different ways that we can improve our memory retention. From techniques like repetition and spaced learning to the importance of emotional connection, we'll be exploring the practical ways that we can improve our memory. But before we dive into the tips and tricks, it's essential that we understand the underlying science behind memory and forgetting. It's a complex topic that requires a deep understanding of how our brains work. From the neurobiological factors that affect memory retention to the psychological factors that influence our perception of forgetting, we'll be covering it all today. So, why do we forget things so easily? Is it because we're just not paying attention, or is there something deeper going on? Do we simply have too much information to process, or is our brain trying to tell us something? The answer, it turns out, is complex and multifaceted. Forgetting is a natural part of the memory process, and it's something that we need to accept and even embrace. As we summarize the key points discussed today, it's essential that we reinforce the idea that forgetting is a natural and necessary part of the memory process. It's not something to be feared or fought, rather, it's something to be understood and worked with. In conclusion, memory and forgetting are complex topics that require a deep understanding of how our brains work. From the science behind memory consolidation to the practical ways that we can improve our memory retention, we've covered it all today. Thanks for watching, and I'd love to hear about your own experiences with forgetting in the comments below. So if you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and click on the bell for more health tips and updates.